Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about suicide in athletes. My topic is let's talk about it. Um, a little bit of an introduction. Suicide. I'm going to be talking about suicide in collegiate leagues, how it is affecting the athletic communities, the reality of suicide within athletic departments. Why is it not talked about as much? What can we do? What can be done? And how it can be approached. So my target audience is a whole community because this is a community problem. So I want to target student athletes, coaches and staff, but also collegiate leagues like NCAA and NAIA. Basically, in general, the whole athletic department, because again, this is a community problem. This is something that we should all deal with together. So my purpose, I was very inspired by Module 11, which talked about suicide within athletes. I think this is something that at least I didn't know about before, so it's something that I found very interesting and I really wanted to talk about. I also want to bring awareness, address the problem, find solutions, let people know that you're not alone and that it is okay to feel these types of ways and to find help. So, a little bit about suicide. It is a very sensitive topic. This is why a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And actually, this is why I want to talk about it because although it is sensitive, it's something that it should be talked about because it is costing for people to take their own lives, and this is not okay. Another thing, it carries a lot of stigma, so that's why a lot of people don't want to go into it. So it's put up to the side. Stress, anxiety, sadness, depression, and other mental issues can lead to suicidal thoughts. Suicide rates keep rising; they don't stop. There's a big mental health issue in the United States, so more and more and more people are committing suicide, sadly. Many athletes contemplate or attempt suicide. Attempts and contemplations are very severe as well as the act. And suicide can be prevented if addressed in early stages of depression. I don't want to say um, it is able to be we can't really prevent the action, but we can prevent the ways that they get to that point. So we can basically reduce the things that can lead to that. So that's what I mean by preventing. Facts: suicide is the third most common cause of death in student athletes. About 31 student athletes die every year from suicide, according to NCAA. NCAA does not require coaches or staff members to have any background on psychological aspects. Neither does NAIA. Schools provide general seminars, but they really don't talk in depth of suicide. Suicide is typically addressed in extensive ways when an athlete in the community has committed suicide or has attempted suicide. So, I have an example of this. I have a friend in New Jersey who is part of the um the volleyball team, and a friend of hers sadly committed suicide from the soccer team. So basically, they had never talked about this before, other than the seminar that NCAA gives at the beginning of the year, which they don't really talk about suicide in a lot of detail. However, as soon as this incident happened, they really wanted to address it, which is good. But if they had addressed it before, if they had helped them before, they could have basically prevented this action, and which was really sad for the whole community. A lot of people were affected, and also it cost the student athlete her life. A big problem: coaches, staffs, and athletic departments are not talking about it enough. Not because they don't want to, but because they don't have the the instruments to actually address it in detail. So they might not want to talk about it because they don't know how to. Um, no one wants to address it. Again, it's a very sensitive topic. No one really wants to talk about it. Um, Another thing, student athletes might not want to talk about it because they think it might make you look weak. They might think it's a cry for help, it is too uncomfortable, etc. Many colleges do not even have sports psychologists because they're not really required to. Informational gap: big leagues do not require coaches to have any knowledge on how to address these problems or help athletes with these struggles. Again, no psychological help is required by teams by NCAA and NAIA. NCAA only requires a general seminar. Again, as I said before, it doesn't really talk about suicide in depth. It just goes over it. Student athletes do not have enough information on this topic. NAIA has no requirements of suicidal seminars in general. So NAIA doesn't even have to address it if they don't want to. Importance of communication. So communication is key. If we talk about it, we can find solutions. By talking, we are dealing with the issue. So communication can lead to healing and improvement. So if we talk about it, we can solve this problem. We can find ways to deal with all these things. So talking is a really good way of letting out stress and anxiety for students. So if we are able to give them that time and those tools to do so, we can really help them out. As sports psychologists, it is our duty to listen and understand the feelings that athletes are experiencing. So if we are able to help them in that way, we are really making a big change in their careers and in their athletic lives. Some studies that I found in 2014, a study done by the Journal of American College of Cardiology found 182 student athlete deaths. Of those, 62 were deaths resulting from suicides. Another study in 2013 found that 9% of student athlete deaths were by suicides. In 2005, the NCBI found 71 recorded cases of suicide, contemplation of suicide, and attempted suicides, which are all as alarming as the actual act, as I said before. However, many cases were also analyzed by age, gender, sport, and division. So another study in 2015 that was done by NCAA found that the percentage rate of suicidal cases was at the time 7.3%. They also found that males have a significantly higher rate of suicide compared to females, which I really found very curious because I did not know. Obviously, I did not know this, but they really didn't go into detail about it, and I think it's a very, very curious thing, and I would like to go more into it. In addition, football players are more likely to commit suicide or have suicidal thoughts than other athletes. This I understand, although they didn't really go into it. I think it's more because football players do have a lot of mental health issues because of the impact and the hitting that they get to their head. So I get why they would have these problems and why they would be at a higher risk level. They believe divisions have no influence on suicidal rates, but they also admit that there's not enough research to prove this. In my personal opinion, I really do think division does influence because the level of playing that you are at brings like a special pressure. So that those pressures of, oh, you're in Division One, I think are very influential on how student athletes feel. So how can we help? So basically be open, stop segregating the topic. It is okay to talk about it. We need to normalize this topic. We need to stop, putting it aside and not talking about it because it's too sensitive. We need to teach coaches and staff members on the topic. We need to give coaches and staff members new ways of addressing these problems and tools to help student athletes, as well as giving student athletes tools to be able to look for help. What we can do, we can teach athletes more about feeling stress, anxiety, and depression. We can provide coaches and staff members with more tools to help and prevent. Prevention is key. Give seminars and workshops on suicide and how we can prevent it. I think this is more on coaches and staff members. To me, it is a very big shock that they're not required any type of knowledge on this type of area, the psychological area. You're dealing with student athletes every single day and everything that comes with that and all the pressures, and the fact that you don't even have to know about these things to me is very shocking, and it is a big problem. So by giving them seminars, workshops, we are also giving them the tools. We can make help known. Many students do not even know that they can go to someone and talk about it. So maybe just letting them know that there's people there to help them will be a good thing and a good way to help. As I said before, normalize the topic, normalize mental illness. It is normal for you to have mental issues. It is normal for you to have stress, anxiety. This is a normal thing. Normalize therapy. Going to therapy is nothing bad. It's nothing to be ashamed of. So just letting that know, I think, will be very good. And be open about looking for help. This is also very important. Best ways of dealing. If you have suicidal thoughts, depression, too much stress, or severe anxiety, look for help. It is important for you to look for help. It is also okay to reach out for help. As I said before, this is nothing we should be ashamed about. Looking for help is actually something very courageous of someone. So I personally encourage everyone to look for help if you need it. Talking to someone can help release or let go of stress. If you feel very stressed or anxious, talking to someone as your friend, it can really help. It is normal to feel anxious and stressed when injured or unable to play. For example, it is normal for students to feel like they lost or to feel bad about this situation, especially now with the COVID-19. Many students lost their season, so it is okay to feel this way. Important information that we should know: mental health is a real thing that millions of people deal with. As I said before, mental health, especially in the United States, is a big thing. 1 in 5 adults over 18 years old of age in the United States deal with mental illness. So this is something very common. Symptoms of depression can include insomnia, loss of interest, chronic headaches, severe anxiety, and many other things that we should know about and we should be on the lookout for. If you see, hear, or feel symptoms of suicidal behavior, say something and look for help. It is important that if we see someone struggling, we find help, we look for help, we find solutions. We can't really stay silent because we're not helping anyone. And these things can really lead to bigger things like suicide. Suicide is not a mental illness on itself, but it is consequences of mental disorders. So as I said before, other mental things and issues can lead to this. And if we can reduce these mental problems, we can really reduce the rate of suicide. So in conclusion, many athletes deal with stress, anxiety, and anxiety at a high level. It is common, it is normal. More athletes than we know commit suicide at the collegiate level. So this is something more common than we really thought. NCAA and NAIA have a big informational gap when it comes to suicide. They don't really address it as much as they probably should. Coaches and staff members lack in knowledge in this severe topic. Suicide is something that is dealt with prevention, so prevention is key. And another thing, let's keep talking about it. Let's just not shut up about it. Let's just keep addressing it and looking for more ways to help. These are my references, and thanks for watching. I wrote a little quote that says, "It is perfectly okay to admit that you're not okay." Thank you.